As promised now, I want to bring in Don Jensen. He's the director of Russia and Europe at the United States Institute of Peace. Don, it's always great to have you. So the president, long ago,
thank you,
promised tough sanctions, crippling, the kind of we haven't seen, right, ever, is what we heard. Do these sanctions today, at least on the U.S. side, rise to that? Because it seems like the headline sanction is Germany putting a hold on Nord Stream 2.
Well, they're very tough. As you say, they're tougher than anything before. The question is, are they crippling and will they deter Putin? And certainly parts of the Russian economy will be harshly hurt. They will be maybe crippled. But the problem is that Putin, I don't think, will be deterred. This is my view. Putin has decided, and if anybody's in doubt, read his tough speech yesterday to the country. Ukraine essentially has, in Putin's view, no right to exist.
Right.
The U.S. he still sees as an enemy, and NATO is an enemy alliance. So this is going to go on for a long time.
So what is the West supposed to do, Don?
I think the West, waking up, frankly, right now is going to have to use what they call strategic patience. Enforce the NATO allies, as you said. They made the administration made good moves today. Support Ukraine militarily, short of introducing U.S. boots on the ground, and hope that these strong measures will dissuade Putin. He's a chess player. He's a KGB guy. He likes to conceal his moves in a way that takes his opponents, the U.S., the West, off guard, and that's what he did yesterday. Most people did not expect him to announce their recognition of the so-called separatist Eastern republics. We thought it would come elsewhere. But he's got a lot of things up his sleeve. He could invade Kiev, he could move in the Black Sea, or he could bide his time. And I think we have to be on guard. We have to realize this is a rolling crisis. It's not going to be on or off. We have to see what he does next and respond accordingly.
What happens next on the ground, Don? Let's just say, to your point, he moves beyond these regions that he's declared independence. We're talking about Luhansk and Donetsk. There are areas there, 2/3 of it, that are controlled by Ukrainian forces. What happens if these Russian troops get beyond those boundaries?
Well, it's going to come. It might come even before then. The problem is that the entities he's going to occupy are only part of the full region, right, oblast they call them, where they claim to have jurisdiction. The problem is the Ukrainian army's there. The line of contact does not separate those regions from the rest of Ukraine. It separates right where the forces are now. So if he moves much further, the Ukrainians are going to fight back. They're going to shoot back. And that's going to be the next stage of the crisis if he moves ahead.
Do you think his strategic goal, Don, the larger strategic goal for Putin is to take over the rest of Ukraine? Because that's what it sounded like yesterday.
That certainly sounded like that, and I think that's his long-term goal. The problem is the timeline is flexible. He can wait, he can move now, he can take Kiev, he can see how the West responds, and even have a less threatening move and seeing if he can peel off some of the NATO allies. I thought the German reaction you mentioned was quite encouraging today. As you know, there are a lot of doubts about Germany's commitment, given its gas dependence on Russia, to the Western allies. But there are wavering members of the NATO alliance. And I think even short of a full-scale invasion of the country, he's going to test where's the weakest link. That's what he always does. And that's what I expect he'll do now.
So we have seen him do this before. And I guess my question, Don, as I watch this unfold is he does this and says, well, I declare whatever. Now he's declared independence for these two regions. What is anyone supposed to do with that? He's essentially thumbing his nose at international law. He's not recognizing the Minsk agreements. What are we supposed to do with this? Who's going to stop him, essentially?
Well, I think you stop him by alliance unity. You stop him by continued strong measures and maybe even stronger sanctions. And frankly, you stop him by having a Western alliance that believes in the value of democracy, that resisting aggression, and that Ukraine is on the very front line, a country that struggled mightily to join the Western community. They've got a long way to go, but your firmness, consistency, and not showing weakness, I think, is the best way to go. And, you know, we Americans don't like to be patient sometimes, but this is the time for it. Because in the end, we are on the side of the angels and we will prevail.
Well, let's hope, right? But if Putin goes into Kyiv, that changes the story, does it not? I guess my bigger question for you, Don, is how concerned are you that this is going to elevate into a much more serious military operation, or dare I say, a war?
Well, Americans like to be optimistic, but right now I'm very concerned. I think an invasion of Kiev sooner or later is probable. And one thing I would point out is that when you talk about sanctions and how we're going to cripple Russia or we're going to punish Putin, I think there's a group of hardliners in the Kremlin around Putin which really sort of enjoys that. They're macho guys. They're going to say, let's bring it on, and we don't care if we're cut off from the world. We have China to help us. We can exist on our own without Western help. And there's a hard, dark core there, which Putin frankly reflected yesterday, that it's going to go ahead regardless of what we do on sanctions. That's one of the kinds of things we have to take into account and be worried about.
All right, Director of Russia and Europe at the United States Institute of Peace. It's always great to have Don Jensen with us. Thanks for the time, sir. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.